Okay, so this video is really for use in class in the first instance, but I am going to post it on YouTube as well because it hopefully will be useful later in the term. So we're going to look at a typical exam question and an exam structure here. So you'll get something like this in the exam. You'll get a question followed by one of the poems printed. So if we imagine it's the summer, we've turned the page and we've seen that they've asked us to talk about the theme of control and how that is presented in My Last Duchess and one other poem from the Power and Conflict cluster. So I'm going to start with the key word initially. Okay, the key word of control. What can we think? Well, we know anyway that the anthology is called Power and Conflict. Sometimes control does bring us into conflict with other people if we want to control them. Then we've got words like authority. Okay, that's what you have if you have control. You may give commands. That's a word from My Last Duchess. You may be dominant. Okay, or you might have ideas of dominance. Okay, and then obviously control might also mean to rule or to reign over subjects. So there's plenty of words there that we can start to think about in terms of our analysis comments. So we see My Last Duchess. We've worked a lot on class in going to the gold that's required. So we'll talk straight away about there's My Last Duchess and over here cast in bronze for me. Okay, those two are linked obviously because they're to do with the start and the end. Another gold quotation that we've talked about comes up twice. The spot of joy, the spot of joy. Okay, and the last one is this grew, I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. And this one here we might also talk about the fact that it's Neptune cast in bronze. Okay, so we've done some work on the idea that that's all you need for the 20 minutes or so that you're going to analyse. So we want to link it with a top 5 poem. These are going to be the ones where you've actually learnt them inside out and you know the gold quotations. Now as it stands, we've only done one in terms of our revision. So Ozymandias, okay, there it is. And off by heart, we hope that by the summer you will have learned I met a traveller from an antique land. I'll leave that there as it is. The decay of that colossal wreck. Okay. And then as well the lone and level sands. Okay, I know those off by heart because they're in front of me on a piece of paper, and by summer you will too. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. We're going to build our essay around those 6 quotations. So here's the plan that you're going to fill in during the lesson. Okay, so consider how the theme, in this case control, is represented in the poem My Last Duchess and one other poem we're doing Aussie. Okay, there we go. So, first of all, My Last Duchess considers the way in which a duke controls his duchess and wants to control future wives or a future wife. Okay, that's roughly what the story's about. Excuse my writing. Okay, so a duke controls his duchess and wants to control his future wife. In contrast, Ozymandias considers the loss of control, the fall of power. Okay, so we've got a nice comparison there, statement of difference, if we're using paper 2 language. Okay, one is about keeping control, one is about losing control over time. Okay, so I'm going to jump down to structure, okay, because with poetry it's always good to make a comment on the structure. So if we think about My Last Duchess, we talk, don't we, about that's my last Duchess as the opening line, and then at the end Neptune cast in bronze for me. Okay. We could say that device is to do with first and last lines. And also we've got pronouns, haven't we? The me and the my. The possessiveness. So let's put that in there straight away. Okay, possessiveness. This is the idea of retaining control. and of course we can use another word, the idea that the women are his objects. So this is all about a man who wants to keep control. Okay, so we're going to contrast that. Okay, in contrast, in Ozymandias, I always say that wrong, Ozymandias, the leader is losing control. Okay, and we know that from the first line, I met a traveller from an antique land. Okay, and the idea that this is a story that's far away and antique is structural distancing. Okay, you know, it's a story of a story of a story, something somebody may have heard. Okay, we could also talk, if we wanted, about the adjective, I'll just put that here, the adjective antique, outdated, something old. Okay, so it's gone in the past. So we can already see in this final paragraph, we're going to talk about the way that this poem is structurally controlled so that the Duke retains control, and here we have things in the structure that show us control is lost, the empire has died over time. Okay, so we've only got 4 more gold quotations to put in. We're going to put spot of joy in there. Okay, and that is the metaphor. And of course, that metaphor, we've taught in lesson about the idea that, you know, the Duchess is perhaps flirtatious. Okay, and that's what really upsets the Duke. The idea that, you know, he's upset and he's riled by that, and so therefore he has to find a way to get control back. As far as he's concerned, the spot of joy is him losing control. Okay. Similarly, another metaphor, and this is about losing control, the idea of the decay of that colossal wreck. Okay, the decay of that colossal wreck is this, you know, imagery of decay. Okay, it's hyperbolic, really. You know, it's kind of saying over time everything will die, power fades, power is lost. Okay, and if we're going to try and use some of those words from earlier, that domination has gone. Domination is gone forever. Okay, so both of those leaders worry about losing control. We could make that comment there, couldn't we? They both lose control. And so finally, into here, we've got the line about this grew, I gave commands. I'm not going to write it all out. Okay. The device there is sort of a parataxis because they are short clauses. Okay, you could say short clauses. And again, it's this idea that the Duke is decisive in his control. He's aggressive to retain that control. And this will be a good time to mention that we think it's based on the Duke of Ferrara and the mysterious disappearance of his wife, her mysterious death rather. And while we're on AO3 over here, let's mention as well in this paragraph, if we can, Ramesses II and the idea that this statue is the one that was discovered, and it shows how far he'd fallen. And of course what we've got here left is the lone and level sands, okay, the desert, and so with that comes you know, some sibilance and alliteration. I almost think you could talk about that being the sublime, because what it's basically saying is the transience of life. You know, we think things exist forever, but everything will fade. Okay, sorry, that's a little bit out of focus. I'm going to play the video again, so don't worry if you've missed anything. So what we can then see is, you know, we've got our comparison. We've been going about 10 minutes, so in an exam we now have 35 minutes. There is a conclusion. You should be okay with those now. I was talking about how, you know, one is about retaining control, one is about, you know, just put retaining versus losing control. You've done 10 minutes good planning, you've brought in all your gold quotations, and now you're going to get a very sore hand writing as quick as you can to get that answer done, and that's what we're going to do in class.